Well, good evening. Good evening. We are live today. I have some very special guests with us tonight. We're going to talk a bunch about sales projections, what's going on for the future, where we're at now, options that some of us use, and we're going to go from there. We're going to hop around the table. Just a few quick updates for those in Patreon. I just put a new video up. It was one that was requested. It covers quite a few things for some of the settings of the tools we use. Another video coming up here. I've got a lot of info on people telling me about glitches and stuff. We may touch on that in another video coming up this weekend. There's a few that have cost some people some money because of charges added on when relists were done. So I want to talk about that probably this weekend. Before we go any farther, we're going to hop in and show everybody out here. We'll do some introductions and we'll start the conversation. So let's pop up here. And the hot seat is going to be Dave and Chuck here, the $1 Million Peddlers. We're going to introduce everybody in the row here. We'll let Dave and Chuck start off here. Let me think. I think I can do this without getting too, maybe, I don't know how you do that. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I'm trying to make you large. But I guess there we go.
I'm Paperboy.
I'm Mr. Magazine.
And we're the $1 Million Peddlers. We've been selling on eBay for 20 plus years, each of us. We have a YouTube channel, and that's about it.
That's about it.
That's about it.
Well, that's a little.
He's got the day job. Anyone who doesn't know that.
Oh, see, now we've messed up the routine here. So now I've messed it all up. Now we got Jeffrey here. Sorry, I guess I might switch up as I do this.
Hi, I'm Jeff, Jeffrey D. I've been selling online since 2014. I own a flower shop and greenhouse. That's my daytime job and my nighttime job, and I do the reselling part-time. That's about it.
Hang on, we still got that feedback here, which is, I'm not sure where it's coming from at this point. 1 second here. Let me just check one setting. Do we still have it? Yeah, it does look like we still have it. Does anybody else here in the studio have feedback?
Yep.
Everybody else, lots of feedback audio. Yeah, I don't see anything else going on with why we have it. Hang on, let me get Jeff off the spotlight there. I'm sorry. Hang on just a second here, Benny. Let me just see if we can't check one more setting here. I get a lot of people saying there's a lot of feedback. Sounds like aliens. I can hear it. Geez, I don't see any other settings to block this off. Give me just a second here. I do apologize, folks. We thought we had it. We spent some time playing around with the settings. Nobody else is using my thing. Waiting for micro. Hang on, I might have. Let me see here. Sorry, folks. One more second. Let me turn off a few access. Currently in use. No, that's probably where it's supposed to be.
You're muted, Don. Nobody hears it now, right?
No echo now.
Isn't it up? It's very funny how every time Don leaves, everything works perfectly.
It works great.
Very weird.
Okay, sorry. How's that now?
Yeah.
Sounds good now.
Does it? I had to disconnect it from Google and reconnect it. I don't know. Hopefully that was it. Excuse me. Let me make sure if anybody else is still hollering that we got it going on.
Yeah,
Looks
sounds
like
perfect. Yeah.
Looks like we're okay. So now we're going to hop on. We'll continue. We got Benny next in line. We're going to put Benny on the hot spot here. Let me pop him up. It's on you, Benny. Give us an introduction there.
So my name is Benny from NewToYouProvisions. I've been reselling on eBay off and on since the early to mid 2000s, I think. But just recently, back in November, started full time after a 16-year career working for the same company. Decided to take the leap, and after Christmas and fourth quarter, after the tornado died down, I landed in this seat somehow. So good to be here.
Well, definitely glad to have you, Benny. We've talked back and forth. He's found some pretty interesting things, actually, including that War of 1812
Recently,
one.
for sure.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites I've seen you find here. That was really a nice item there. We're going to hop over to Marty. I know we've kind of messed up the order here, but I think I figured out why it's doing that, and I think I can avoid it next time. Here comes Marty. I think some of you, if not all of you, might know who Marty is anyway.
If not, hi, I'm Marty. How you doing? I go by Jiminy Flip It. I am a full-time reseller about 3.5 years now. September of 2018 was when I started. Primarily on eBay, but I do sell some records on Discogs, and we have an Etsy shop as well. I have a YouTube channel, and in the words of $1 Million Peddlers, that's it.
That's it. Okay. Now we've got Annie. I guess we should have went ladies first. I do apologize for that one because she's coming in the very end here.
That's okay. I'm Annie, and like the others, I sell on eBay. I have a YouTube channel. I also sell on other platforms like Discogs and Etsy and stuff. I'm working on a Shopify store that I'll be announcing when I'm happy with it, which will be in the next week or so. I hope. Happy-ish. And I think that's about it.
Discogs as well. So there's a couple folks doing it. Sounds like we got an echo on my side again. I hope it's gone, but yeah, I can't tell if it's on my side or not, but I don't see anything else we can adjust with it. So anyway, we'll go on to the first topics here. As long as I'm not getting a ton of complaints, let me just look over there one more time. Yeah, it looks like I don't see anybody saying sound again. We'll have to see if the muting part works on my end. Somebody else suggested that. I'll shoot the question out here and we'll pop around the circle. Sales wise, everybody's having issues with sales from the massive amounts of people that I've talked to. Maybe we can go around the circle, start with Jeffrey and move around Benny and around the circle here and maybe discuss where your sales are relative to last year. Are you up? Are you down? You don't have to give out any numbers, but let's see if we can get a consensus on where everybody's at, whether they're up, down, or what the case may be. You want to pop on there, Jeffrey?
Yeah. I think my sales are about the same. The one thing that I've noticed, though, is that they're more spotty than they were. Usually it's pretty steady, but they've been coming in waves now compared to like last year or even in the fall time.
Does that, you've never had them in that same pattern like that? Does that say that after?
Not the way that like with the quantity that it's doing it now. I'll go 3 days with nothing, and then I'll have 4 days with 4 or 5 each day, six each day, and then I'll go 2 or 3 days with nothing, 3 days. That was what it usually was, but now it's 3 days I'll have 7 or 8, 9 or 10 or whatever, and then I'll go almost a week with nothing. And I've been doing the sell and the listings and sell similar, and that works really good to help with the sales. But just lately in the last month, I think it's been really wavy.
I've heard that too. I know, like this week, I expect it to be slow because everybody's due taxes by the 18th. I think is what the new deadline is for this year. So I've seen a lot of people saying the same thing with this week. We were down for the first of it. Yesterday and today has been back to normal, and it's actually a little up. So it's kind of hard to say, but I have seen 2 days here where it'll be fairly slow, and then the next day it'll just be slammed. It's been up and down a lot. Overall, average wise, though, the average is okay, so I'm not really complaining much. How are you doing, Benny, on that?
Well, I don't have much to compare it to from last year because I just went full time fairly recently. But over the past 6 to 8 weeks, maybe since the beginning of the year, it's been on a steady decline, especially over the past 3 weeks or so. And so about a month and a half ago, I was doing the whole sell similar, put items on sale, relist deal. Didn't seem to matter much. I did do a pretty large sale last week, 30% across the board on my entire store. That gave me a nice little bump. But now it's back down again. So I'm probably going to go back and try the sell similar technique again and see if I can't get a little bump there. Overall, though, it's been on a slow decline since the first of the year.
With what I found from the sell similar, I got to do it. We stopped it and we tried to see what would happen with sell similar if I stopped it. I've been playing around. We've done it. I've done sell similar since October 28th, like in thousands at a time. Geez, I don't know, 60, 70 times. And I've tried every single thing. The best thing that works is doing it multiple times a week. So we average literally 1/30th of our store, if it's a 30-day month, each and every day. I mean, I don't do it every day, but I'll do 2 days worth one day, 2 days worth the next day, and then 3 days worth. So every week I'm doing 7,000 self-similars, and I would run sales as soon as it's done. I know some things work for other people better. Some things work for me this way, and they may not work for other people, but doing it at that schedule routine, it's got action on there. And on top of that, we're weeding in new listings at the same time. I can't complain about my sales. I mean, and not to brag, it's not like that's just what's happening. I was really surprised because everybody's saying it's bad, but again, I got quantity, so it's hard to say on quantity. I know you don't have anywhere near probably what we have. I know you've been doing a lot because I've seen all the stuff you've been getting, which is just some phenomenal stuff he's got there. Dollar wise, I mean, you've got some pretty decent stuff there for sure.
Especially with that, even with that Civil War era or pre-Civil War era stuff that I picked up, I want to make sure that find out the proper information for some of that stuff, like that phrenology chart that you went over in the video, like in Patreon. I just want to, I think it needs more research. I don't want to like throw that stuff up and, especially because I got it so cheap. It's like, I just want to do it right and get it into the right hands. So yeah. So I'm still in the research phase for that stuff. I haven't listed any of it yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't rush to list that one. With that that chart you have, I mean, you might really need to send that to hang on just a second here. You might really need to
I sent that to Heritage, and they just basically emailed me back and said we can't give you any value on it. So
I would put it more like you're interested in selling it to see what they say on it, would be my personal opinion on it, and see. You might, I've sent people there and they've been very, very happy with it. I know Dave and Chuck buy stuff from them too as well. I don't know about everybody else, but I've never had a bad experience ever with those guys.
No,
You need somebody to look at that piece. He found a really interesting piece that goes way back. It's the earliest piece like that I've ever seen, truthfully. I even looked afterwards because I was surprised at what you had. I missed it at first. I'm like, wait a minute. And then I realized what it was. But anyway, it's a real nice piece for sure. Let's hop on to Marty here. We're going to run around the circle some more, Marty.
Sorry, let me unmute. Okay, sales-wise, sporadic up and down, I think like a lot of other people. March last year was one of my best months, short of December. December was my best, but March last year was my best month for whatever reason. I did a lot of estate sales that month, my wife and I, and it translated into good sales numbers. This past March started off great last month, and then the last like week or so was terrible. April has been okay, like I said, up and down. The one thing I do follow your advice about the ending and sell similar. I don't have nearly the quantity, obviously, but even if I do 200 or 300, it seems to have a little bit of an impact, especially initially. Like it's a quick burst of activity. The other thing I did last weekend, and I spoke about it a couple of nights ago, was I had, what was the number? 276 recommended specifics that were just sitting there on my eBay screen for eons. I never wanted to bother with them. I got frustrated Saturday morning. I said, let me open this up and see what it is. And I all 276, I populated every field I could. I put NA when it applied, And almost instantly, that was one of my best sales days that weekend. Saturday and Sunday, I had a great weekend. Whether it was a result of that or not, we'll never really know, like you always talk about, but it seemed to do something. And since that, this week's been pretty good. And I don't have any more of those to tweak. So it's not like I can go in with another magic bullet and do some more. I don't have any. But I'm steadily listing. That's always the cure for me. Just list.
Yeah, I've been actually suggesting to start putting them in, and I've been very reluctant because we have like 7,000 to put in, and if they hit us with more coming in, Lord knows. I put a bunch in. We put hundreds in, and then it went back up again in the last month and a half or so. So it's frustrating when they're not supposed to be changing anything, and they keep doing it and doing it. And to spend 2 years of this now, 2 years of them, with the item specifics and all that, it's getting a little old at this point, and I'm going to try and get them all in, as you said. They're I think at this point, since it's been long enough for the process to have changed, that putting them in now might actually have some bearing. Maybe the results are coming back in.
Exactly.
Maybe the terminology is being used more. Maybe even with some of the other stuff they got going on, it might meld well with putting those in. At least that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Let's hop over to Annie now, and it's Dave and Chuck are at the end of the tail here, so it's Annie's turn.
Well, I just want to quickly answer a question in the chat. Somebody asked what sell similar means, and it just means that you end a bunch of listings, and then instead of relisting them, you hit sell similar and relist them, and that helps to refresh what people call the eBay algorithm, and you get more views on those listings. So people are just doing that to help get seen. And the question was what sales? I think it's really really tied directly to the more I list, the more I sell. And I'm not noticing a particular year over year pattern because I've been doing sort of different things each year. I've pivoted a lot, so it's hard to compare, but there's definitely a correlation between listing, being active on eBay, whether that's sell similar or just, moving things around or whatever, and listing and sales. And so since I've been working a lot on my Shopify site, like the past week, my eBay sales have been a little slow, not horrible, but I think they could have been better the same period if I was working on it more.
Yeah, with Shopify, I've been working on Shopify for, oh my gosh, I don't even want to say how long, but the whole sell similar is really thrown us for a loop. Chuck and Dave, they gave me a number. I still need to contact them because this week's been horrid. But the answer to that is SKU numbers with that for us anyway. My whole issue is if I end in sell similar, I don't know how much that's affecting you, but when I do that, then the import's not syncing and all kinds of other stuff. And if you're Anyway, it's a fiasco. I learned my lesson, but of course, when we started eBay, SKU numbers weren't there. There wasn't a way to add in all that other junk that they have these days, and we just continued doing the same process instead of thinking, "Hey, SKU numbers." Who would have thought you'd have like a massive amount of listings? That was never my goal. So, anyway, that's some good points Annie makes there. The sell similar, as she said, that is exactly what it is, and it does trick their search results to some extent, in my opinion. It makes it look like it's a new item. It gives it a whole new item number, I think, is the biggest point that I see in doing that. If I don't do it after just a few days of running some stuff, new listings do okay. They'll give us some boost, but the lack of me doing the sell similar, my sales go way down really quickly, and it stays down until I start to do it.
Can I hop in just for a second? Just going
Sure,
back to my personal situation. Something that just kind of dawned on me is that before I got into selling full time, so pre-November 2021, I was concentrating a lot more on like non-paper items, honestly. So a lot of the stuff that I've been listing lately has been more long tail items, and I think that probably is contributing to my declining sales because I don't have the quantity up that Don has, or possibly Annie or whatever. I have to sort of mesh two business plans together. So I have to put up things that are going to sell relatively quickly, probably not nearly as high of a margin, but I need cash flow so that I can start building inventory. So I think that's part of the reason is I'm going through that transition of getting listings higher so that I can rely more on buying in bulk and listing things that are slower movers, but then that transition is going to create a little bit of pain for a while. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
That is a very, very good point. And I'm actually glad you put that out there, because that's not, I don't think I've ever discussed that topic at all. That's a very, very good point Benny makes there. When I first started, I sold everything everybody else. I did clothing, I did FBA massively. Anything we could sell that way, we did it. Clothing was one of our biggest ones. I had shelving beyond belief, like 48 bins massively full with clothing and stuff. And what we ended up having to do is split it up. So we'd list, first we started 10% of our inventory was long tail, 15, 20%. And as the long tail started to pick up business and revenue, we did more and more long tail and less of the quicker, lesser valued items, especially once we got the volume in there. Sometimes I had to take, when we switched over, sometimes I had to take a little less on some of the stuff I wasn't interested in, or as Benny said earlier, 30% discount. You price it right, you can do discounts all day long, and in that perceived value plays right into it and stuff. At least that's my take on it. Very good point. That might almost be worth doing a separate video just on that topic, because that is, I hear that a lot. I've never brought that up, and I honestly, sincerely thank you for saying that.
There's a positive aspect to that too, though. It's like when you're buying in bulk, when you do have the cash and you're able to buy in bulk, just like you preach all the time. When I buy in bulk, I find, like, I bought 2,000 postcards 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like that. I sold 20 of them, made my money back. So now, like, I can get to that whenever I need to. I can put that on hold. I can focus on the stuff that's going to flip more quickly and get some more cash flow. And then once I get some cash flow going, then I can go back and get listings up in bulk. So, it's like walking on a tightrope, trying not to fall off one side. You just have to, like, it may slow down for a bit, but then once I roll back to the faster moving stuff, which obviously I've got plenty of that too, it's just a matter of, finding that tightrope walk. So.
Definitely. So some very, very good points there. Let's hop on to Dave and Chuck here. Let's give them their shot at it too. I know a little bit about Dave's in the past, so Dave said some stuff. Why don't you hop on and go on from there, Dave and Chuck?
Yep. We did on our live show a couple of weeks ago. We basically talked about this, and sales this year are leaving out the 2 years of the pandemic. And you almost have to leave those out as a black swan event. We're as good as, or I'm as good as I was back in 2013. Things were really good back then, and things kind of slowed down throughout the years. Historically, right around Easter time, things slow down. Spring break, people start thinking about graduation. People start thinking about vacations. So historically, I've seen my numbers kind of decrease right around Easter, and they kind of stay lower through the summer, and then they start to pick up probably October. So that's historic, leaving out the last 2 years, and that's kind of what I'm expecting again.
For me, my sales were pretty strong in January, but then they dipped in February. So I decided to increase my percentage of sales, some like high-end items, 0 to 10% off, middle of the road items, 25 to 30% off, and then stuff I just want to get rid of, 33, 35% off. And then my sales increased at least 20%, and they're pretty steady throughout now. So I think I'm going to stick with that until, the holiday season comes around.
Dave and Chuck have massive quantity too. Chuck's got like massive. I couldn't say massive enough to describe how much Chuck has. From the videos I've seen with his massive warehouse. I mean, the envy of anybody who's into that kind of stuff. I love the stuff he sells too, so I can't complain about that. But sales wise, running a sale is always a good thing in my opinion. You got to have it priced right to be able to do that, of course. But sales, I do them all. I do sales 3 days a week. Every day of the week, there's only about an hour or two gap where there's not a sale running, only 3 days a week. The rest of the time, there's a sale running 24/7. And that drums up business because when you run the sale, the first day you run it, it says, hey, these items are on sale. If you run it really short, it says the next day, hey, the sale's almost done. So you get boost the front end of it and the back end on like a 2 and a 3 day sale. Mm-hmm. We used to run them a month at a time, and it was just dead. After, the first week, you had to wait till the last days of the sale. So I'm like, why am I doing it this way? And you can set up a sale and mark down on eBay. I use the same one. I set it up like 5, 6, 7 months ago. I just copy and restart it. That's all you got to do. I mean, those are the easiest thing to do, are doing the sales, in all honesty. Let me call this out because I honestly missed it. Auction Monkey, thank you very kindly for the $10 super chat. Greatly appreciated. It's honestly appreciated, actually. Again, these folks all came out here to help. We're trying to give you some good information. It's not required, of course. I never even asked for that kind of stuff, but I do appreciate it. Back to the topic at hand. For me, fourth quarter and first quarter are about the same, and they have been for, probably 3 or 4 years. For us specifically, right now, we've had our second highest sales day ever was this month. I think December was our highest sales day ever, and that whomped. It's not sales day, I should say, sales week. It was the busiest we've ever had. Well, sales day too as well. We've had record numbers on the end of fourth quarter after October 28th and this month. Now, again, I'm doing an hour's worth of work. We're doing self-similar and then running the sales, which takes about an hour, 3 days a week. So it costs me an extra 3 hours every week to keep this process going, which isn't horrid. It's only 3 hours, but when other people seem to be struggling, if they're not doing some of this stuff, it can hurt. I know there's LSGS Rob's saying that tweaking some of your listings is a good thing. That is another thing that we try to do. I'll go back in and fix 1015 here, 1015 there. I'll hit a category. I go to the old ones and we rescan the old. We used to do photos for everything before we got all the duplex scanners. Now I live by 3 duplex scanners. Everything that was photo that we could fit through a scanner these days, I try to have people do so many a week and stuff and up those. Now, Aaron, another person I've been talking to, he's doing the same thing, having good results at it. So even if you get a bunch of listings up, you can sit there and tweak them, left and right. Sometimes I've got the wrong keyword in there, and just changing one single word in a listing gets it sold in like a day or two. I mean, that's my take on it. Again, everybody has different results, but we work extremely hard. I've tested, we've run, test results, a test group of 400 versus a 400 of like-to-like items, doing one way, one group of 400 one way, another group another way, and seeing what happens is the only way that there is to really test anything without having eBay's open secrets that they won't tell us. So let's talk just a little bit here about cross listing. And I only say that if you don't do it, that's fine. We'll hop on to you on another question, whoever may not do it. Everybody is not, there's no need to everybody to do cross listing, but several folks brought it up about Discogs and things like that. Why don't we just hop around the circle, because cross listing has become more and more and more important in some categories and less important to do in other categories. Jeff, where do you stand on cross listing?
I think I have three other sites that I cross list with. So it seems I don't get very many. I've only got 2,000 items. So, but
what other sites are you using, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, Bonanza is the first one. I get maybe 3 sales a year on that one, but it had one sale that was like $900 on it. So, it's not bad, but if it wasn't for that, I'd probably break even with the amount of numbers I have. But it links into eBay real easy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the HIP link. It's
yeah,
auto,
and then I'm on HIP,
sync.
and then Discogs.
And what was the second one? I'm sorry.
HIP, postcards.
Okay, you're on HIP. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Which HIP are you doing?
The postcards.
Okay. How for us, we sell about on average at least something every single day of the week. I got on HIP though. I've got like 18,000 listings. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't have that.
How often do you sell it?
I probably get 2 sales a month off of that.
Still slow. Yeah, it depends on.
I mean, but I don't. My numbers aren't. The more I had, if I had more numbers, I would get more.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of postcards, but I'm buried in records, 78 records. So that's
a good thing to have. That's a good problem to have, depending on the records, of course.
Yeah.
We just sent out 3 this morning that have been sitting around. We just sold similar, and 3 sold off of those sell similar on ours. Of course, it's a big box for everyone you send out, of course.
Yeah.
But. Yeah. What about you, Benny?
So I got the wild idea that it was going to be a good idea for me to go to HIP postcards, and I just realized that I wasn't going to use it yet, and I wasn't ready for it. and so I canceled that. But I am going back and speaking about some of the bulk inventory that I have, like the, $1 to $10 postcards. I've actually started selling on Whatnot, and I got my kind of idea is like it's cheap inventory that I can throw up, and if people want it, they can buy it, and if not, oh well, it'll go back in my inventory. And it's kind of a nascent site, and I think it has a lot of potential. So it's kind of an experiment that I'm running. And but aside from those two right now, I don't have anything listed on any other sites. I have opened an Amazon seller account, but I haven't utilized it yet. So just eBay and Whatnot.
What about you, Marty?
Yep. I did try hip postcard for a bit. It just didn't work for me, so I kind of gave up reluctantly. I wanted to give it a try. I think they have a great thing going. I just think they need a little more publicity, maybe. Is that the word? I think they need to market themselves a little bit better, get the word out there. I think it's a good platform. I know you've spoken to the guy who runs it, and he seems like he's one of us. He's a collector. He's a fan.
I would say he's a straight shooter. He was very open and very friendly,
Yep.
and I don't have any complaints about the guy. I mean, he took a lot of time out and talked to me personally, and
Right. Yeah.
he didn't have to, and that was before we were doing anything. So I mean, it was like
Yeah.
he was just giving me some information. I found a whole new postcard site today, just earlier today. So there's so many stuff coming out. I think without promotion, as you're saying, that's probably their biggest problem.
Yeah, I think so, because I think they have, like I said, a good thing going. They have a good foundation. They just need to be marketed a little bit better. I think a lot of people would, and that functionality that they have to pull over stuff from eBay is wonderful. I wish everybody had that. I cross-listed about 100 items. eBay is my main hub. I cross-listed some items from eBay onto Etsy, only like 100 listings. I've sold 10 things in like 2 months, so I'm kind of frustrated by them. But I don't.
But you only had 100 listings up?
Yeah.
Well, it's not terrible. 10
it's
out
not
of
terrible,
10
but it's not awful, but it's not great either. And I think I need to pay more attention to it. They're finicky. They really push free shipping on Etsy. It seems to be the only way to get yourself noticed on Etsy.
Yeah, I don't like that. I hated when they did that.
Yeah, I don't like that. I just don't like that. But it's the only way to be competitive, apparently. So I still have my 90 or so up there. Maybe I'll put a few more on and test it out. And I do sell on Discogs from your recommendation. I'm a huge music fan, and I have tons of records. Same thing. The easiest platform in the world to list on is Discogs. Bar none.
Yeah.
Bar
No
none.
photo, no nothing.
No photo. Yep. Be honest about your condition, though. But I'll tell you that they are not snobs, but they know what they're doing. The people that are on Discogs, don't be wrong.
The best part on that, I know, because several others said Discogs too, is that you can put a minimum. So if you're selling cheap records, no photo. I mean, it's like I can list a few records in a minute. I mean, it's really quick, and you can put it so they have to buy so many records to get a purchase.
Exactly.
So you're not going to be shipping, $1 record or $2. All that cheap inventory, we get records for 2 cents a piece or less. So for me, it's even if I'm selling them at $2 a piece, they got to buy $10 worth.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 10 cents into it or whatever the case may be. So you're talking it's an $8 or so profit at the end of the day for doing nothing other than a couple minutes. I wish there was even a faster, like if you could just photo them and what I mean? That would be awesome. Yeah.
But that's what I've been doing. I dabbled in another one that was a disaster. Was a Poshmark. It's just not for me.
It wasn't for me either. I mean, nothing wrong with the site, but
no,
not my thing.
Not my thing either.
Yeah, definitely.
That's pretty much it for me.
How do you do on Discogs? Just curiosity's sake.
Pretty well. I don't know, 5-10 a month, which is not terrible to me. I that's fine. That, like you said, it's virtually effortless. And again, I'm just cross-listing stuff. I could probably just list solely on Discogs, put a bunch of stuff up on Discogs solely. I have a bunch of 78s too, Jeffrey. And they're hit or miss. They're not quick sellers, but they're kind of bread and butter things. I just have them sitting there. They will sell. They'll all sell eventually. It'll take some time, but they will sell. So I'm thinking of just putting a ton of 78 solely on Discogs. The only thing I will say is that they're harder to find on Discogs. Like, I don't see, there's a bunch of them. If you have rarer stuff, they just don't show up on Discogs. And then you're kind of in a bind because you need to kind of create a new listing, and then that becomes a hassle. If you're creating something from scratch that's not even out there and you have to try to like create something, and then I'm going to get like comments from other, really sophisticated 78 buyers. I'm not competing with those folks. So I try to put the ones that are fairly common and known and it's a 5-second listing. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna,
definitely. I mean, I was so surprised the first time I ever listed on there.
Yeah.
You're right on certain things. I usually give the $5 and $10 items to Discogs. I know somebody that's all he does, and he sells like 30 records every single day of the week.
Oh
And
boy.
he buys his records at the thrift stores around here. And they're crap records, pardon me, but
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it. But he lives off of $5 and $10 records. He just sells so many of them every single day of the week. He purchases records, spends an hour or so listing. I don't know, a lot of them, more than I can list in an hour on Discogs. But the dude's a whiz on Discogs. He's the only reason I ever knew what it existed, because I ran into the guy and he's a Discogs guy. That's all he does. He hated eBay, and Discogs was his thing. So yeah.
Good for him. That's great.
Annie, now we're on to Annie here.
Okay. So I have tried a lot of cross-posting things in the past, and I've tried some tools to facilitate it. And right now I'm not doing any, and I'm much happier. So I sell certain things on certain platforms, and I don't overlap. I sell, I sell 78s on eBay, and I have, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds. And I might try putting some on Discogs, but I don't think I'll overlap. I think that Discogs sells, like, their prices for 78 seem really low to me compared to eBay. And I think it's like, I feel like Discogs is where you go because they have everything, and eBay is where you're like, oh my God, it's, this obscure thing I've been looking for, and there's only one, and then you buy it for $18.50 instead of $2. I don't know. That's my impression, though. What I do sell on Discogs is punk rock 78s, really obscure, really like Xerox cover kind of like, early 90s zine type aesthetic. And those do pretty well. I have a few random pop and rock 12 inches and singles and records, but I haven't really focused on that just for the space. I don't have the space for it. My record collection that is not being sold is big enough, but I like selling on Discogs. And yeah, somebody recently, I had a bunch of stuff that came from a record store that had never been sold. I got it at an auction, and so I put mint minus and wrote, this comes from a record store, it's probably never been played. And somebody wrote back well, it was a little dirty, it was a little dusty. I was like, all right, so now I'm cleaning them before they go up. But anyway, I have sold on Poshmark. I don't anymore. I do sell on Etsy, but it's totally different material than is on eBay. It's more craft and art supply oriented. I was selling on Hip Stamp and Hip Postcard for about a year, and I was kind of breaking even, but I just said, you know what, forget it. $20 a month or whatever, it's not really worth it. So I just canceled those recently, and we'll see if I feel it or not.
I'm noticing a trend here.
Yeah. Again, it's they seem like good platforms, but for the amount of stuff I had up on there, it was not good sell through, just in the most basic sense, especially Hip Stamp. I had so much, thousands of postal history listings, and nothing ever sold except for one guy who buys from me on eBay who found it over there and saw the shipping was cheaper, So what other sites? My sort of philosophy with it is that for me, eBay and Etsy are the everything of the genres I sell stores. And then I'm going to do a sort of curated version in my Shopify store that's very specific, pulling a few cross listings from those two platforms. But I think each is its own individual beast for me. And I sell on Amazon too, but I haven't been super active on that lately. It's kind of when I get in that mood to look for deals and do RA, I do it, but it's not all the time.
Yeah, with what Annie's saying too, we started that way too as well. I only listed certain items on Amazon only, and I know Dave and Chuck, we've talked about that before. I know Chuck has some that's just on Amazon as well. That whatever works for you is honestly the best bet. I've tried Posh, and I honestly have to be disgruntled and say I did try Macari because I had so many people, but then there was no action, no movement. I get the hip thing. We've actually have an account on Del Camp now. I figure I'll give that a shot because I've had, I don't know how many people tell me that, they've got like 10 times the amount of stamps and stuff. And you can sell anything on Del Camp, but mind you. One thing with like hip, they've contacted me in the past about from the marketing and stuff. I told them, you got to put it out there, but I wish that it was a little different with what they do. I have to say, I've heard that a lot. I'm okay with what I get out of it because I got quantity though. So, I mean, without quantity, it's hard to say, but just like with Etsy and Marty and stuff, or Benny with hip as well too, whatever works for you. Some things I'm just not into, and some things other people don't even want to try, like Amazon. And a lot of people just cringe when it's the thought of doing Amazon. And I used to think that way too, but I don't have any real complaints on Amazon either, honestly. I mean, I wish I had more sales with the vintage, but I actually sell 78 records on Amazon, honestly. Sometimes better their sellers than other places. I usually get more money, but it's hit or miss too. Let's pop on to Dave and Chuck here. I think we've kind of got the order stuck this way, so we'll let Dave and Chuck break it down here.
First, I have a request from the thread.
Shoot.
Oh, all right. Hey, they wanted to see it. Anyways, well, I do Amazon and eBay mainly. I use Celebrate, which I love.
No fights down there. Come on.
But I use Celebrate, which I love it and hate it, and I think I'm married to it forever now. So I think I'm stuck with that. But it's definitely helped me import eBay and Amazon to my Shopify stores, and I'm growing those as well. Also, I've probably doubled my Amazon sales or my Amazon items for sale compared to eBay over the last year or so. I'm doubled, my eBay items on Amazon. So get more sales that way, get more money for the stuff. So it's where I'm headed.
Those are two. You're talking to mostly vintage magazines still, right?
On Amazon, we're doing toys, a lot of toys, sports cards now. So we kind of stepped it up a little bit and branched out, but we're doing well on, all those avenues there.
Are you doing graded cards or just?
I do some graded cards. I've been doing more graded comics and magazines than cards, just because of the turnaround time. But I've been doing a lot with that and been pretty successful. But most of the graded stuff I put on eBay.
I was going to say, which one were you running those on? That was my next question, but you beat me to it.
All right, and then I sell on eBay. I've got 3 different stores on eBay. Well, technically, I have 2. My wife has 1. Technically. Sell on Amazon and actually have more items listed on Amazon. I think I got something like 19,000 on eBay and 24,000 on Amazon. But I sell twice as many on eBay as I do on Amazon, because Amazon's kind of where I put the stuff that I have a $20 price limit, lower limit on eBay. And if it can't go for $20, I put it on Amazon if it's available on there. Occasionally get some records, sell them on Discogs. I'm selling stuff on Etsy and happy with it. It's a whole different market of things that you put on there. And if I'm actually starting to sell stuff or starting to list stuff on Biblio, because that actually, you can list books on there even faster than you can on Amazon. So sales aren't great, but when you pick up a giant collection of books, you can get stuff on super fast.
Have you tried Abe Books, which is Amazon basically anyway? You ever try them?
I haven't tried it. I've looked into that, and I've looked into Alibris, and I'm thinking of doing Alibris at some point or other, because I've got a lot of CDs that somebody suckered me into buying at some point. And then I got it listed because I had bought them back when you could list those on Amazon, and then they went and they gated the category.
You can't list CDs?
Not like major, like Columbia House, or not Columbia House, not CBS, things like that. You have to have you have to be a distributor. Have to buy them from a distributor and all that. Have to have the invoices and all that. They gated everything, and I don't have that. So
I still sell them on there, but I can list them in the collectibles, and they don't say anything.
Maybe I'll have to try that at some point too. But I was thinking of looking into Alibris as well, because they're saying that they kind of cross list stuff across if you list on them. So their fees seem pretty good. So
Yeah, I haven't looked. I mean, I know somebody else who mentioned that before. I know somebody who does Abe Books. Again, it's Amazon. Abe Books is owned by Amazon, but they've had no problem. They've done better on Abe than they did on Amazon because there's less competition, and it's all geared towards just books. So you're not getting all the other people. So the audience is smaller, and it's all very specific to probably just about what you're talking about too for those other two.
Yeah, and I occasionally, every once in a great while, I sign up for HIP, and Chuck and I go back to HIP back when it was a bid start. That's how far back we go.
Yeah, that's their first. Yeah. Yeah. That's a ways back now. That's like 6 years or something.
So we, every once in a while I sign up to them. I run stuff over, and then make a few sales, and then the sales die off, and I quit the subscription. And they're bothering me again to start another subscription for comics. So I'm thinking, let me look into that. Maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, I wish there was more options. I noticed I'm really surprised there's so many people talking about Discogs actually, because it's the easiest one for me anyway. Did I cut you off, Marty?
No, I was going to say it's all because of you. You're the one that turned me on to Discogs.
Well, I'm at least glad it helped because
it did.
I'm really surprised. Even if it's not, you can list in just an hour and get a couple sales pretty quickly from my personal experience, and they're not going to be super huge high value. But man, as I said, I know a guy that's all he does, and if he can sell the junk that I see him buying and make a living off it, man,
what I list over there is I pick up cassettes sometimes. When you're at sales, you can pick cassettes up very, very cheap. And they're another thing that is gated on Amazon. A lot of them are on Amazon. You can list them. So I list them across on Amazon. But then if I've got things that are gated that I can't list there, then I put them on Discogs because it's like, well, I'm into them anyway. I might as well list them somewhere. And I sell them occasionally.
I have a question for you guys. Is there any barrier to entry for a Libris or a Books or Biblio? Like when I looked into it a long time ago, it seemed like you had to be like a bookstore.
I signed up and no problem whatsoever. No, none whatsoever.
Good to know, because I think I might be a bookstore. I don't know.
Well, Abe Books, I know my friend got in and he wasn't a book dealer at the time. So he was just selling extra. So I would say at this point, maybe a couple of years ago, it was different. I know some of them, the Libris, like you were talking about, I want to say they had a real lengthy process like 5 or 6 years ago or something. They've been around for a long time. Abe Books is like Amazon. If you can get it in Amazon, you're going to be able to get it in Abe Books, just from my understanding.
I'll have to look at that again. I've been doing really well with higher dollar antique books on eBay, and I would love to get them in front of more eyeballs. It's a good idea.
I like the antique books. That's one of my. I like the miniatures are my 100% all-time favorite out of.
I just sold. This week I sold a miniature Civil War soldier songbook, like to keep in your pocket. It was I don't know, it was big. It was like 3 inches, but.
What'd you get out of it?
$150. I took an offer.
Very good price.
Did
it say him on the side of it, on the spine?
It was actually in bad shape. Like the spine was pretty like
ratted out.
Yeah. But and the guy who bought it was like really funny. He wrote me messages like he was a Confederate Civil War soldier, like in this old-timey language. So I was very happy to accept his offer, even though I had it up for $250.
Probably didn't pay much for it, then I assume.
No, it's from an auction.
Can I give a quick little insider tip though as to what something or other that sells on Etsy?
Shoot.
If you've got old books that are pretty, even if they're falling apart, list them on there. People will buy them because they like the way that they look. I had a book that was, as Don would say, was completely ratted out, and it was a book that my head was worth $1 or $2. I threw it up there. I do the free shipping on her. I threw it up for $16 and sold in a day. So
I totally do that. My Etsy store is all kind of things that are too cruddy to be on eBay, but are good for art projects or pretty or boho chic or whatever. Sometimes I've even sold just book covers. Like I've taken all the pages out and just sold covers.
You could sell album covers on Etsy too. If your album is scratched up, sell the album covers on Etsy. People, same reason that Dave was saying, they find them attractive and they frame them and they put them on their wall.
Yeah, or they buy the record and melt it into a bowl in the oven.
Yeah. for chips or something. Yeah.
Every flea market around here has those bowls out of the records. Everyone. They must sell because they're everywhere. You know, I couldn't imagine so many people doing that if they weren't making something off of it. The crafters fairs around here at Christmas, you see them everywhere, and they've painted them and made cutouts to them so they look like snowflakes of bowls and all kinds of things I've seen. It's just plastic. You can cut it, drill it, Dremel it, and all kinds of stuff. Clocks are like the number one thing I see around here for those too.
Hey Don, I know
Let's
you've got a list of stuff you want to get to, but can I just take a little detour here?
We can just chalk. We don't have to do anything special. We're just sitting here rapping. Go ahead, Benny, shoot it.
So in the chat, somebody had a question for $1 Million Peddlers. Is there a specific item that you sell in each of your 3 stores? And I have sort of they said, thinking, should I have a separate store for just baseball cards and postcards? And I've had sort of the same question in my mind because I am bouncing back and forth between longer tail items and not so long tail items. Should I separate, get a second store and put all of my long tail stuff in one store and use the other one so that I have people coming back to that specific store as repeat buyers? Is it worth it? So it's kind of 2 questions, my question and then the question in the chat.
I do the yes. Yes. I have Vivs Views, which just sells postcards. And then I've got $1 Peddlers, which primarily sells comic books and also sells some magazines. And then, but newer type magazines as opposed to the older magazines. And then Papergoy just sells kind of, more of the ephemera, the older magazines, just anything else I come across. So I find it works that way because you kind of can brand the other sites. And then the one big site's the one that everything goes to. But things can get lost with 19,000 items. Things can get lost in it pretty easily. You got to really, in order for people to find stuff, I think store categories are incredibly important as well.
For me, if I could go back and do it all over again, I'd probably have 3 stores, one for magazines, one for sports cards, and one for comics and toys. Because what happens to me is if I have 160,000 listings, I don't get top dollar for those items because they look at me as like an auction house or a consignment store or a junk store. So, if Paperboy is getting, a 200 for a postcard and I put the same postcard up, I might only get 100, 150, and just like with sports cards. So I try to buy a certain percentage too because of that reason. But if I had it, Mr. Sports Card, then I'd probably be getting a premium for just all sports cards in that category. So, but can't go back; it's too late now. So.
Don't steal that. I'm signing up for that right now.
There you go.
Yeah, I get that question here and there too. I've thought about that. So we used to have multiple stores, but it was more so for eBay's fees because anything over 10,000 listings, we maxed our stores out at 10,000 listings because you'd have to pay 5 cents for every listing over it. When you got 25, 30,000 listings, we were spending like $1,000 a month in just listing fees. So that was why we capped off our stores at 10,000. Obviously, I don't do that anymore like that. We do have another store, which I don't share, but I've thought about that in the past. I'm going, and again, there's many approaches. Their way is perfectly great for them. May not work for everybody, but it is a viable option too. My look and goal these days was to have one mass landing pad. So we're looking at it from a footprint. The bigger the footprint, the better. And again, it depends on what you want to do with it. At the point, there's no right or wrong way to do it for those. I personally just do the one store for me because with employees, it's just too much. Everything listed on the other stores are listed by the wife or my kids. The ones that are listed on eBay are all just the same people are listing it. It's all the employees and stuff. I don't want to be mixing up and have them log in one store and do it this way and that way. You've got to have all different login information and all that kind of stuff. And it's easy, in my opinion, to get confused with it if you're not like on the ball. I did it. I've listed on the wrong store once or twice before myself, just because it gets really confusing. If you watch some of my videos, you'll see like my browser. You'll see eBay 1, eBay 2, eBay 3. Those are because that's what we used to have separate ones. We go incognito and all that kind of stuff to make sure that they're not crossing passwords and stuff. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that one at all, personally. I think whatever works for you. I get Dave and Chuck, and I get Benny's thoughts on that. Again, anybody else have any thoughts? Anybody else doing two stores? Jeffrey, Annie, Marty?
I've thought about it because I think it's nice to have like Chuck was saying, like you become like a specialty store for a certain category, and people will go to that. You probably get a premium for your items. But I hate the thought of starting from scratch again. That's the biggest barrier for me. Is I'd be literally why would I move something that's my biggest item, biggest seller to a brand new store and start from scratch and have no views and no feedback? So that's my only barrier. I think it's I would love it if there was some way to essentially copy your store, change the name.
You can do that. You can copy just the listings you want. You can transfer
the listing, but I mean carry over like your feedback, your everything, like just kind of make a carbon copy of your store, version B, retitle it, and then just put some new listings up or transfer some listings. You're starting from scratch.
You can up your amount of listings quantity by using your other store. You'd have to link them together, which eBay will do with the phone call. I don't know if you know that.
They'll link them, but will they like?
They're not like linked together, but I mean, you can get your limits increased by pulling out and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got that. But again, the feedback would be 0, right? And then you're not.
Of course, yeah. That's another drawback. Again, they've had it that way for a while.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'd love to. I would love to do something like that. Branch off into a second store. Yeah.
What about you, Jeffrey or Annie? Either one of you?
No, I like the idea of having the one store and just having a lot of multiple items, different types of items, so people can browse and shop and look at different things.
I guess for like the thought of it too, with me, I'm an old flea market antique mall guy. So for me, I like to just randomly see stuff. Again, it's a preference to some extent too. I don't mind having it. The only thing I would say is sometimes I'll sell. We've got thousands of photos. Sometimes somebody will buy some photos. Sometimes they'll buy some trade cards. They might even buy a button if it's like they're MGM Studio fans, and I got some MGM Studio buttons up or something. So sometimes I sell to the same person in multiple different categories as well. Like if I'm selling a comic book and I have a toy that's Batman, I might sell a comic book and a toy to the same person. If they're military collectors and I got military paper or a cover or Civil War postcards, battlefield postcards or something, I can sell buttons, postcards, books, all to the same person. And that was, I guess, my original thought. Again, I understand the specialty because I'd love to have had like a button store because we'd be the biggest one on eBay right now if I was just selling buttons in the store. So I get it. You'd get a name. I could call myself Mr. Button and go from there. I actually thought about that, honestly, but it just, again, I don't want employees having to worry about which account they're logged into, and you got a bunch of people doing it. Anything to make all the hassle out of it, get it out of the way is what we do. Just keep it simple, stupid. I guess that's the KISS method. That keep it simple, stupid is my method. As simple as I can do it. Again, that's why we don't do anything hardly that you have to take photos with. I almost always just scan stuff these days, other than buttons or something specifically. I know most of us have talked about bulk. Why don't we go around again from Jeffrey, and we'll start around the circle again. Bulk, is that a thing for you? What's your first experience in bulk? Is that your best way to buy stuff? I guess let's touch on two things. What's the best purchase opportunities you get? You don't have to give secrets out, but a specific type of place, or is it specifically bulk that rules your world or rules your store? I guess that's the biggest question for it.
That's the one way that I've bought just about everything is at auctions at bulk. I think
you said you got massive amounts too. I know you got a lot of records.
Yeah, I bought like a 6,000 record lot for like $40 at an auction. And the one thing that I'd say about that is don't go to a record auction to buy records. Go to a Christmas auction that also has a bunch of records there, because you're going to be fighting against the guys that are collectors. I learned that with Model Railroad. If you're trying to sell,
they are ravenous at those train shows.
If you try to sell trains or anything like that, never go to a train auction because you'll get tore up. But bulk is all I do. The problem is the space. If you buy in bulk and you're wanting let's say records. The auctioneers are pretty smart. They throw a bunch of junk in with something that they think everybody wants. So now you're stuck with a bunch of junk with the stuff you want. So you've got to be able to get rid of that stuff. Either take it to a different auction because that auctioneer doesn't want it back, or find another outlet to get rid of it.
Yeah, with records, if I call on Craigslist or some kind of ads like that, I've probably seen the lot. And sometimes I've said this before, I've seen the same lot 3 different times from 3 different people because they bought it. They picked out what they thought they were going to do. They relisted it, put it back up on Craigslist or one of the local banter places. And then I end up getting a call or I see it and call. And sure enough, it's the same thing. That's why I always got to ask, where'd you get it? Where'd you buy it from? Because I don't want to look at it again. I've wasted so much time. I stopped going to Craigslist ads exactly because of that reason, because it was just people pawning off. I do it. I can't complain. I do it with like postcards. I buy a bunch. I'll pull out what I want. I resell a lot of 1,000 of them. I'll give a secret, a place that like you're talking about, Jeffrey's talking about here. I buy postcards at military shows because the dealers who sell them aren't postcard guys or gals. They are military people. So I can usually get some pretty darn good military postcards at places like that. I go to a gun show here at the rec center and I've bought postcards at the gun show, for crying out loud, because they're setting up. They want to maximize their space. I don't have any problem with the gun shows. In fact, there's some nice people that I've talked to for years that set stuff aside these days, but they're not gun related. They're gun dealers. That's why I look at those outside sources like Jeffrey's talking. Look outside the box. Don't go to a record store. Some of the postcard shows are still good. I'll take that. But, most of the time I try to avoid places that sell the items that I want. I want to find them from people who aren't into those categories. Very, very good point there, Jeffrey. How about you, Benny? Sorry.
Yeah, either one's fine. I would say 80% of the stuff that I buy is in bulk in some form or another. I've got a guy who lives in a town about an hour away from me that my girlfriend and I stumbled upon on a road trip one time, and he does estate buyouts, and he just has a big warehouse full of junk. And so he lets me go through, dig around, make a pile, and I load up my car for, between $300 and $600, and then, till I run out or I want to go back up and see him. But the same with auctions. I mean, especially live auctions, I try to go to live auctions that don't do shipping, that have some sort of a online preview. The main one that I go to, again, is about an hour away from me. And usually I try to find things. I'll try to find several different lots that I can put together and make it worth my time. I'm not going to drive out for 200 postcards or whatever. But yeah, most of it comes from that. Antique malls. I find stuff at antique malls every once in a while, and those are those make up some of the 20% of my individual sales. And also people just calling me that I've made connections with. I've also got a picker who she does trash picking and goes to rich neighborhoods and goes through the trash, and then she calls me and I pick out what I want and pay her, $150, $200 and fill up my car and take it home. And she's happy, I'm happy, and that's the way it goes. But yeah, so I would say 80% of my 80% of what I buy is in large quantity.
So what let's ask this one question on you, Benny. What's you're making the most money per item? Like, let's say that your highest value item is coming from a bulk, or is it coming from like selective sourcing for that 20% that you're doing the other stuff like antique malls? Where do you usually get the most max out of those, I guess?
I would say overall, it's the bulk buys. That's why I'm putting 80% of my time into it and buying that, doing that most of the time.
Well, that's a time factor too, though, for you, would it not be?
Right, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Because there's a lot of times, especially in the paper realm, I'm sure you guys are all familiar. A lot of times you stumble across stuff and you're putting in a lot of research. You're trying to find comps for it, like items. Sometimes if it's really rare, you're kind of grasping in the dark for any information you can find. So that all takes time, and there's no doubt about it. If I go buy if my picker finds me golf clubs, I can go to eBay, find golf clubs listed in 5 minutes, and
you got to mail them with the extra $15 fee now.
Got it. Yeah, but if I but also we're in spring. those are high demand items. I'm probably not going to get as much money, but they're going to sell within, I think the last set that I sold in a week. So like, it's, yeah, again, it's a balance. And especially for me in my spot, I've got to walk the tightrope and concentrate. Like, it's always surprising to me, and this comes from Don's education, what people are willing to pay for a piece of paper. And when I buy postcards, it's always surprising to me that I get my money back within 2 or 3 weeks, and
that's always, is that not?
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, as long as you don't know that you're not buying a bunch of chromes or something, but
Chrome Annie got me onto chromes because she was talking about before. We get $10-15 for average chromes these days. I don't know what it is all of a sudden, but they're not doing too bad.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I definitely over the long tail, the bulk buy is what brings in the most for sure.
What about you, Marty?
Sorry, just want to unmute. My preference is always to buy in bulk when possible. Obviously, I think it's essential. I think it's crucial to your business to have large quantity of anything that sells. I go in knowing there are going to be long tail items just by virtue of the quantity that I have. Right, it's something you want to always go back to. My thing is magazines too, and print ads. So I have lots and lots of magazines, but I won't pass up on quick flips either. Obviously, and my wife and I are big fans of estate sales, and typically in an estate sale, you're not going to find huge volume. But you might find lots of things like that people just want to get rid of, records, 78s, in my case, magazines. We've picked up like 100 magazines on a table on an estate sale, and that's a pretty decent amount. But like the real big ones, like thousands of and stuff, that's always my preference if it's available. And we had luck with Facebook Marketplace with that, with people that, again, just trying to get rid of things. I love that. I love when somebody writes in the description, needs to go, just want to get rid of it. I love it. Pounce, no matter what it is, pounce on those kind of things. But yeah, that's my preference is volume and bulk.
One place that everybody, I do still look on Craigslist on the free section. I've gotten player piano rolls. I even have a player piano cabinet in like mint condition that I got for free. I got one. It's a piano bench that like raises up, and I got that for. I got a bunch of stuff for free, and I missed like I don't know how many dozens and dozens and dozens of the binders of 78s not too long ago, just because I didn't see it till it was too late. But I don't care if it's free. Talking about like garbage picking and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that either. I've got somebody who does something very, very similar. In fact, a guy I know, he sold $600 worth or 600 pounds of copper that he scrapped, and he got it over like a 3 or 4 month time frame. And that was just extra money. He has nothing into it basically. It was pipes that people threw out in the street, and he's got a big truck. He's an early bird, and he does a lot of other stuff. So that's a great way to do it. Scrapping metal is huge too. My son does that quite often, actually. What about you, Annie?
Yeah. Can everyone hear still with my headphones? No.
Pardon me, Annie? You okay? Think she's got to switch them out there. I got you. You're okay. You got it?
All right. Am I back?
You're on.
No.
We can hear you here, Annie.
Am I back now? Am I back? Yeah.
Got it? Why don't I go on to Dave and Chuck for just a minute, and we'll pop right back to Annie and give her just a minute there.
All right. Anyways, regarding bulk, I guess
I think I know the answer to this question.
the best way to put it in perspective, if we didn't buy in bulk, you'd probably be looking at the $1,000 peddlers.
That's good. I like that. That's good.
I buy in bulk weekly. It's the reason I have the warehouse. That's what I live for, those deals. Because someone comes in with a Jordan rookie I can't buy a $10,000 card for $1,000, but I certainly can buy a van worth 10,000 magazines for $1,000. So a lot more money, long tail, obviously, but that's what I'm in it for, and that's part of most of my success, really.
And I do a lot bulk, and I've been around for 20 plus years. I tend to find that a lot of the bulk that I get is from dealers, and I do very well off dealers because they know what I buy, and so they save it off, they give me a call, and I buy it from them in bulk. So. You're muted, Don.
Too much of that. You okay now, Annie? We got you.
Okay.
I can hear you now, Annie.
You can? Okay.
Yep.
That was really weird. I just changed everything like 7 times and then it worked again. What was the question? Bulk, yes. Bulk is awesome. Yeah, estate sales, especially when the people don't know anything about the topic at hand. And they're trying to sell their, like depression glass for $1 million, and you go in and take all the paper for 50. It's great. That just happened to me this weekend. It was fun. Got like a ton of like 18th century, 19th century engravings for pretty much nothing. It's very fun. You hear me sighing. And I love auctions, live auctions, and buying huge boxes of junk.
Junk is what I started off like with Annie talking about engravings. I'd love to find some nice 17th century engravings for sure. Where you never know where you're going to find that stuff too. We were at it's a place called Put-in Bay. It's an island. You have to take a boat out there. It's out in Lake Erie and stuff. And there's one little antique mall in there. And we walked in and found a whole stack of engraved images. I think I paid 10 for the whole lot. We sold 2 the day we listed them for $34.50 a piece. So I anytime I hear engraved, I love engravings. Engravings are awesome.
Yeah, and there's like, there was this huge pile of paper on the table, and it was like, this is a seaside town, so it was like yacht club stuff that like was nobody like from the 70s that no one would want. But then in the pile there were like all these Audubon prints and these old engravings and like crazy like fine art type stuff. And I just made a huge pile and was like, can I have this paper? And he said, yeah, $50. And it was like 2 huge shopping bags full of paper. It's very exciting. So
paper seems to be, again, that's like the low-lying fruit around here because no one wants to mess with it. No one thinks it's worth anything. It's cheap, so they think there's no money involved. But man, that's like my best area. Well, buttons, paper, I guess they're tied at this point. Paper in general, like yacht clubs, Annie talking about. We sell a lot of yacht club stuff. Buttons, clothing, uniforms, brochures, paperwork, anything. And it doesn't have to be old. We sold some like modern day buttons that I couldn't believe how much they paid for them. They were a member of the yacht club and they were, trying to put together a jacket, and apparently buying them from the yacht club is some horrendously high amount of money, which I was surprised. You could probably buy them from the manufacturer, Waterbury or something, dirt cheap. I'm just surprised that stuff does so well, as I was never into, yacht clubs. There's hundreds. I got books now on just yacht clubs these days, just because there's so many of them, and the British ones are just awesome personally.
Yeah, I think yacht club buttons are like a really good find in general. Like some of the ephemera, and maybe it's just because I live here and there's so much of it, but I think nobody wants, like, there's like yacht club directories and yacht club phone number books and yacht club like race rolls. There's just so much around here, and I just don't think it does anything. But buttons, yes.
Buttons.
One of the reasons that I like doing paper so much is because no one else likes it, supposedly. But then you put it on eBay and it sells, and somebody's going to take care of it. And it's like, those things can get lost and destroyed so easily. So it's almost like a personal mission to save that stuff, because the stuff made out of cast iron, it's not going anywhere. But the paper stuff could disappear tomorrow. It might get thrown out by the estate sale company.
Oh,
It might get thrown
definitely.
out by the vendor, the flea market vendor, if they don't sell it. So it's almost like not only can you make money at it, but you're also kind of preserving a little bit of history too, especially with the older stuff.
Yeah, I mean, every time I buy some box of paper and find like, Civil War soldier stuff in it, or even like somebody's marriage certificate from the 19th century or something, you're just like, wow, I just saved something. and and I just love like finding out what it is, even if it isn't that valuable. It's like really fun to ferret out, like, oh, they used to do it this way. How interesting. Like you learn all about, old banking and old licensing and old mortgages and just all this weird stuff you'd never know about just by looking at old papers, old dog licenses.
That's another interesting thing too. I look up stuff and I get excited even if it's not worth a lot of money, just because maybe I haven't seen it before, or I get to figure out what it is. Like Ben had you got those Confederate pieces in there. I still haven't figured out what exactly those are. So that was something I like seeing stuff like that. Even again, if it's like Annie said, even if it's not always worth a lot of money, I do feel like it's saving it, like it's something that most people could care less about, or it's going to be thrown away at a estate sale. Because when I first started in this, people just threw that stuff away. I'm like, I can get it for a whole bag. I said, well, I'll give you $10 a box lid for it. And sure enough, I got it all the time after that, and they could care less. They didn't see any value, but then they started to raise it once they saw that I was buying every single extra bulk lot that they ever had. They started raising the price on me, but it's probably some of the best stuff. And like with them being rare, a lot of the paper items, may only be one of them that exists, and you may be the only one that has it. Doesn't mean it's going to be priceless, but that's a cool feeling to know. Like Ben found a War of 1812 piece of government document, and I mean that's stuff like, how few of those show up these days. I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars for the worst condition of those types of things. That's a big, huge excitement. That's like a turn on for me to find something that historic or that old. I guess to me, I know it's not everybody's bag, but for me, it's excitement. I love looking it up. I don't mind spending sometimes I spend too much time just because I'm too much into reading what they did or where it came from. Like the last one that the wife was looking up was Jumbo, the elephant.
Oh, no.
Don't look it up if you love animals, but I didn't know what the story was until I looked it up, and I was like, oh, geez. I'm not going to tell you who was involved in that. I know Annie probably knows already with that sound, but
I used to live like a block from Tufts University, and Jumbo's their mascot, and they have a big life-size statue of him in their courtyard, and their teams are all called the Jumbos. And so I've been to like exhibits there about the real Jumbo, and it's very sad.
Yeah, I was sorry I looked that one up. Don't look it up if you love elephants and animals. It's history, nothing we can do about it. But anyway, let's get one more round out here. We've been, I guess, yapping. I didn't realize we're already already around the clock at this point. I've asked this question of a lot of folks before. Most everyone here sounds like they plan on doing this for an extended length of time. I know where I want to see myself. I'd like to get a larger store. I'd like to branch out a little more. I'd like to be more firmly in place in some other categories. I'd like to expand my categories. Where do you see yourself going with? I know you've got your flower business and you've got some other stuff. So you've been doing this for a while already. I don't see you jumping ship. I mean, is there a plan for, is going to be a retirement, or where are we all going? We'll start with Jeffrey and then hop over to Benny from there and around the circle again.
Yeah. Well, we do a 3-year, 5-year, and a 10-year plan. And my wife and I look over it probably every 6 months or so. But we see the online of reselling as being eventually our primary business. We look to be out of this business probably in 10 years or so. And then hopefully the online and the reselling will be our primary. So yeah, we're in it for the long haul. It's just the shop and the greenhouse takes up most of our time. So
I can see that. I've done multiple things probably since I started reselling, and it gets to be, I don't know your hours, but I usually do 12, 14 hours, 7 days a week these days. And
Yeah, I do well, especially right now because of the greenhouse. We do
seasonal.
Oh man, it's I know I do right around 90 hours a week.
Wow.
So,
what about you, Benny?
When I grow up, I want to be the auction professor. But in a more
It's not all
serious
it's cracked up to be there, Benny.
But you know, I'm very new in this whole full-time game, so I'm still when I went full-time, I was really pushed out the door by my girlfriend because she really supports me. We bought a house together, and she's like, "Do it. We'll figure it out and just do it." So I'm still building it, and basically the shortest term goal, or I guess it's a long term goal because it's going to take a while, but I want to replace my old salary, and I'm not there yet. And from there, once there's a certain comfort level there, then kind of the sky's the limit. But sort of the first thing to do is to replace the old salary and then go from there.
Yeah, it took us 3 years to get to a point where we weren't worried. Every morning, kids eat. We may not have the best food that day. So yeah, that's always
I estimate it'll take probably close to 2 years for me from this point, because I was selling, I was ahead of the game because I had been doing it as a hobby for off and on since the mid 2000s. So eBay wasn't foreign to me. I didn't have the learning curve of a new person getting in, and I was selling part-time seriously for the past 2 years, 3 years, something like that. So I am a little bit ahead of the game, but yeah, I think it's going to take me a couple years, and then we'll go from there. So, but I see myself doing it for the rest of my life.
very good. It just takes time. That's all I can tell you. It takes time, and some people make it right off the bat, well ahead of me, like months they're into it, and they're already found some big niche that they can get into. That wasn't my. Again, it took 3 hard, long years of not buying new clothing for us. Everything went to the kids, and it's rough if you've got kids. I don't care if you're a single parent or 2 of you. There was nothing around here. It can be rough. So I fully get you. It's that transition, but I will tell you and promise you when you hit that number, the feeling. I say this because whenever we got into this full time, it was Jerry Maguire when he's just pulling away. I'm free falling and he's singing. That's how I felt. That was the biggest, best feeling I can tell you. Not having to ever deal with that boss issue, and I would say
that's how I feel. That's how I feel now, and I'm not even there yet. I mean, my stress levels and my happiness levels are through the roof compared to the job that I worked before. It's night and day. There's no question about it. So, I mean, yeah, it's a grind, but it's I'm so much happier now. So
happy and freedom factor. I do this for freedom. Even if I didn't make as much money, I think I would still be much happier being able to live my life how I want and do it when I want and the whole work. So yeah, that's a huge factor. Huge. Marty?
Yeah, I'm definitely in it for the long haul. I just wanted to thank Annie really quickly for the bolo for the yacht clubs, because my band plays in yacht clubs all summer long, and I never thought of asking anybody, but now I will. I'm going to ask, because we get to meet. They call them the Commodore. The people that run the yacht clubs are called the Commodore.
My dad was a Commodore when I was
he really?
For a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Along the same lines, and not to step on Don's toes here to call out another YouTuber, but I saw the Commonwealth Picker. I'm a big golfer, and the Commonwealth Picker went to golf clubs and asked them to buy he could buy their lost and found. So he was buying old head covers and stuff, clothing and stuff, and basically getting it for pennies on the dollar and being able to flip it. So I saw that at the end of last year, I think. So I'm gonna start doing that every golf course that I get to. What do you guys do with your lost and found? I'll give you some extra cash for it. So we'll see how it works.
Well, speaking of golf, just for a second, you talking about golf. My cousin, he does this, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year, but he does it at every single golf course. He scuba dives and he charges them to scuba dive their pond. And he's the guy who gets the golf balls out of the entire city, is my cousin here in the Toledo area. And he just come up with that idea because they were trying to rake him out before he did. He's been doing this for 22 years. They used to come out with this scoop thing and they'd have to scoop it out, but now he just scuba dives and he makes a lot of extra money just recouping their golf balls. I used to collect golf balls outside there used to be a par 3 here down by my house, and we used to walk the cornfield and pick up the golf balls, and we'd sell them through the fence. I've been into golf stuff. I don't play golf myself, but I've sold hundreds of golf clubs back in the day, and the golf balls, I've sold probably 1,000 plus golf balls as a kid, and even more as an adult. Yeah, golf stuff's pretty hot for sales wise, definitely. Marty, we'll let you finish off. We kind of pop back.
Well, no problem. But yeah, definitely long haul thing here for me too. I spent a long time on Wall Street. I worked in the World Trade Center. I was in 2 attacks, and I've been doing the band thing since like the mid 90s. So it's beautiful to not have to, when I did work for somebody else, when we had shows or when we had like prolonged tours, I would have to take vacation time and sometimes run out of vacation time and sometimes not get paid and have to weigh the pros and cons of doing a show. Well, if I play for a week, I'll make more than I would do at work. And now all that stuff is out the window, and it's a beautiful thing. Freedom, like you said, is the number one thing.
Why don't you tell them what you do? Why don't you tell them what you do on the side?
Everybody knows what I do.
Not everybody.
Everybody knows what I do. No, John Lennon and Beatlemania again, coming to you soon. We're playing all over the country this year.
If you come my way, you got to tell me.
I'd be happy to. Yep. Travis is trying to get me out in Colorado. Oh, I appreciate it. I really, yeah. We should be in Colorado. We're hoping this year to meet Travis, which would be kind of cool. He mentioned a couple of places, and we're working on getting those. But yeah, but seriously, the freedom, like you said, that's it. That's my example. Is that now I'm free. If a tour comes along, if we go to China, not that I would go to China, but if we were asked to go to China, I'd be there. And I wouldn't have to think twice about it. My wife could take care of this stuff while I'm gone. I'm making money. Everybody wins. So yeah, long term. Yep.
Annie?
Well, I feel like I've been pivoting for the past, I want to say 10, 12 years since my last real job with a actual other human. And
who's your little friend there?
This is well, back there, that's Sophia, the dog.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. I see the cat walking by.
This is Ivo, kitty. He doesn't really like to be picked up, though. Bye.
Cats are finicky.
There's another one around somewhere. But let's see. Yeah, so I feel like I've been in this constant state of trying things and keeping what works and getting rid of what doesn't for a decade. And so I can't say anything's permanent, but I do really dig the reselling thing. And I think it's kind of where my past experience has converged into the love of history, the love of art and design, and then learning how to sell and market have all come together into the perfect vocation with reselling. But then I also still like making art and doing design, and so I do those things too. And I think with my Shopify store, that's going to be another version of things coming together.
But it's all still in the same line of stuff. I know you're heavy. You do a lot of stuff on design. You've got a real strong, huge back, more than I would ever have in the design and stuff. Is that kind of working into your whole ploy, like a reselling design / kind of business?
Yeah. Well, so my Shopify store is a lot of my art and design work, also other artists and designers. And
are you taking a commission work or something on that too? In other words, or
no, not so much.
It's kind of mixing in with
It's just stuff projects I want to do, and I'm doing a lot of print on demand at the beginning until I can ramp up. And there's also a big Salem aspect. What's unique, well, amongst other things, about this place is that from I'd say August through November, it's crazy here with the Halloween rush and millions of people come to Salem, and there are vendor fairs every single weekend that are highly attended, and it veers towards the more creepy type of art and design, which is perfect for me. So
Rob Zombie kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, maybe. But, witchy, ghosty, Halloween-y stuff and all its permutations, and the actual witch Wiccan stuff, that there's a big Wiccan community here. So, I mean, know it sounds crazy, but my business plan is like like Halloween in a way. Like I want to be out there every single weekend selling in person, and then have my Shopify store as the backup for the rest of the year, of the same kind of stuff while I continue to sell antique and ephemera on eBay.
There are dealers, and I've talked to a couple that sell like 60-75% of all of the revenue is, and they're artists and stuff too. There's postcard guys and stuff like that. I think I've shown some even in the past, but that's 60%, 70% of their business is just Halloween stuff. And we're talking new stuff that they do, they design. I've sold Halloween cards that I created. I've sold out the last 3 runs that we had. So Halloween stuff is hot all year round for those of you who don't get that. Annie's in a perfect spot. There's only a couple spots I could say, like in New Orleans, Halloween stuff sells fairly well too because of all the other stuff. It's either New Orleans or up by Salem. We spent some time up in Salem ourselves. We stayed at the House of Seven Gables, but it was an awesome up there. She's right. She's in a perfect area for that stuff. She's got the audience local as well as online, and there's big draws for that up there. We saw it wasn't even in season. They were doing witch events out of season up there. Even around Christmas time, we saw some witch events and stuff in Christmas time. I mean, we were up there in like December for one of the runs. So
yeah, like Christmas is big, but Halloween is crazy. And it's also just like there's a huge arts community here, and it's very supportive. There's a lot of like municipal funding of the arts in this particular town, even though we're also like a gateway city, which in Massachusetts means we're like up and coming. Like there's still, a certain percentage of poverty, and like we're not that gentrified, but so it's a really nice mix. It's very diverse. There's like, the old timers, the new timers, the artists. It's like a really fertile ground for being creative. So it's inspired me to do this in-person stuff as well as the online stuff. So that's kind of where I feel like I'm going.
Yeah. I've done the in-person. There used to be a magazine called Sunshine Artist, and you'd set up, and that would be where you'd find all the art events and the shows that did all that stuff. That used to be the way you'd had to be in person. There was no other option back then. So yeah, I like the in-person because you can talk, and you get somebody hooked on you as an artist or something in person. They're coming back wherever you're at. They'll be a follower forever because they met you. I always thought that was a draw because I know the big ones that I used to know somebody who was really big. He used to do sculptures and stuff. In fact, he did an air base in Florida with a 15-foot eagle he carved out. But he all his business came from directly. I mean, it was people that saw him and talked to him and realized, this guy's pretty cool. He's awesome. He's a nice guy. He's friendly. And I think that's a big draw personally. But let's hop over to Dave and Chuck because I know we're running to the end here. I try to keep it to that hour and a half. No rush, though. You guys want to hop on there?
You
I don't know. There you
are. Oh, right. For me, I'm definitely obviously in for the long haul. I'm forced at this point with 600,000 listings. I'd like to keep growing. I do want to keep growing, so I have like a goal in mind to get to. My problem is, employees. We're lacking employees. Yesterday on the live show, we spoke about our numbers last year, and I spent 1.1 million on inventory just last year alone. This year, we're going to exceed that. We're on pace to exceed that. And the problem is, if I got 10, 12 employees, I probably need 20 employees to put a dent into last year's inventory that I bought.
Well, you say you're stuck with it, but I mean, that's not really a bad thing to be stuck with, though,
Oh, no, it's great. It's a lot of work, though. I mean, I know the deal, and I'm willing to put that, the hours in. Like Paperboy, we're up at 1, 2, 3 a.m. Getting older, I may not want to do that in 10 years. But if I can continue to grow it, maybe build it up where, someone might want to buy it and take it over, I definitely would not be opposed to that option and make life a little easier possibly. Or, I can retire like Paperboy in a couple of years, maybe I can do something else. But most likely I'll be peddling this stuff for years to come.
Yeah, and as he was saying, in a couple of years, it's 1 year, 11 months, 3 days, but who's counting? I'll be done with the state job, and then I will kind of pursue full-time the reselling.
How many hours was that, Dave?
It's 101 weeks, but anyway. Yeah, so I will be going full-time at that point, at least for a few years, and got to figure out my exit strategy. I got to find some sucker who could buy my store at that point. but we're talking, probably 10 more years of doing the pedaling, and then hopefully getting an exit strategy and kind of laying off on a beach somewhere, selling pina coladas to tourists or something.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I get you. I hear you. Spent some time in West Palm Beach, and we used to go down to Key West when we lived in Florida. I used to love down there, the sunset on the beach with the margarita or something. That was my thing. Yeah. Yeah, I got you there. We thought about the get out, and all that kind of stuff. I'll probably do this till I'm unable to, because I like doing it at some point. We've been tracking inventory. I know I don't know if I want to even ask what your inventory is, Chuck. I know Dave's is pretty high too. We counted, we estimated it's almost 5 mil we have in just sheer inventory here. I don't know what Chuck has, but I'd imagine you're like in the 40, 50 million, maybe.
I mean, I don't know if it's that high, but if we got over 1 million items, and if our average ticket's 20, 25, I would say it's at least 20 retail wise, 25 maybe.
Is that just counting what's listed though?
No, that's probably everything, or everything that's at the warehouse. My shop is jam packed with more stuff in the garage, but we won't count that. I got a couple deals in the works in Pennsylvania. Monday, 2 big hauls. It's probably another 100,000 pieces or more I'm taking,
Wow.
next week. So
you got to have the money. You got to grow your business up to get to that point, of course. Definitely. So we're past the hour here. Let's wrap it up, and we'll just go around and do a quick goodbye. If anybody has any shout outs or anything you want to do, be my guest, Jeffrey, Benny, anybody else in here. I will put myself on mute, and we can just hop around the circle. Jeffrey, if you'd like to start, bye, or any other things you'd like to add out there.
See y'all later. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Benny?
Well, thanks to Don for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys. And, it's not very often that I get to speak live with other resellers, especially this many at one time. I also, just a little plug, you can find me on Instagram at NewToYouProvisions, on eBay at NewToYouProvisions, on Whatnot at YouTube, NewToYouProvisions, and on Facebook, same address, same name. And thank you to everybody in the chat that was engaging. Thanks to all my co-guests. And, I watch you guys on YouTube, those that have YouTube channels. And thanks for all the info on in the past and the upcoming info in the future.
Marty, you want to hop?
Yeah, thanks again, Don. Pleasure as always. Second time, a charm. I do have a YouTube channel. Just crossed 500 subscribers. I know it's nothing, but it's a big deal to me. I'm halfway home to that first 1,000. So thank you for the 500, and here's to 500 more. I do a live chat show with my buddy Travis Griffin every Monday night. You can catch that on my YouTube channel. Again, a real honor, Don. Thank you very much, and thanks to all you guys. I always learn something every time I watch all of you. So
Travis has been on. Travis is a real good guy, so they have a good conversation.
Yep. Thanks.
Annie?
Like everyone else has said, thank you very much for inviting me on. And let's see. I know in the chat people keep wanting me to say what my Shopify store is, and I will, but it will be like next week, I'm afraid. But if you check out my YouTube channel, which is Annie eBay School, I'll do a video or something about it once I'm not embarrassed. And get in touch if you have any questions I can answer or anything I can help with, because that's fun.
She's very knowledgeable as well. She goes in some really good depth. If you like to have the knowledge, you can check her out for sure. Let's hop over to the $1 Million Peddlers, Chuck and Dave there, or Dave and Chuck.
Yeah, check us out on YouTube if you haven't already, and I really don't know what your excuse could possibly be for not having done so. We have shows every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. We have a live show every Wednesday at 7:30, which we like to say is the most interactive reselling live show at 7:30 Eastern on 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And if you got any big bulk things you're looking to sell, reach out to us.
That's it. Don, thank you so much for the invite. Appreciate it. It was fun. Hope to do it again. And I want to give a shout out to Dawn because I feel bad. I forgot saying hello to her yesterday in the intro. So sorry, Dawn, once again.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming on. It was enjoyable to have everybody on. It is nice to actually talk to people semi face to face. I know it's not like in the same room or anything, but like many of them are saying as well, I don't talk to a lot of resellers just because of the business we work in. It's picking up and research and, you know, sort time and all that kind of stuff. My employees are about the most if I talk to our family. So it is enjoyable to do this. I sincerely thank everybody for coming on and donating their evening to everybody to give you some really good advice, some good knowledge as well. If you enjoyed the conversation, I know I probably didn't say it at all the show because we were really kind of into it, but please hit the thumbs up. We would appreciate it. Show some love for the channel. Again, this video will be available. I'll get your links if Ben has any links he wants to. There are some links in the description box to get you to their channels or their spots. So please feel free to check them out as well. I'll get Ben's in there after the show if he wants one in there. But other than that, I appreciate it, and I hope you all have a good day.